But there is an article in Bloomberg that it just came out. It says that we're seeing a stress in $20 trillion commercial real estate market. Now, I wanted to talk about this a little bit more in detail because I see there are some people that they are making comments about when I speak about commercial real estate when it's about to happen. To begin with, I just want to tell you guys that the information that I'm sharing, it's not fear-mongering. Please stop saying that. If that's what you want to think, it is your option. It is your prerogative. This is just to inform you and to keep you guys up to date so you know how to move and what to do in the future that is about to come. Now, having said that, one of the things that we have to understand is that commercial real estate, there are several different types. As we know, you have, office buildings that is occupied by doctors. You have mixed use. You have shopping centers. You have apartment buildings that is residential. Okay, you have office buildings. So there's a lot of different, commercial properties. So when we talk about it, some people, they come and say, okay, there's a specific area that we don't see a lot of problems. Okay, so for example, if there is a building that this building, it's mostly occupied with doctors, well, yeah, there is a very high possibility that you may not see as much as stress. But we're not talking about exceptions. We're talking about overall. So I wanted to share some stuff with you guys. There are articles that just came out so you understand what is about to happen. So one of the articles that it recently has come up, it says that the multi-tenant apartment building sales has dropped 74%, the most since 2008. This talks about specifically about the multi-tenant apartments, okay? The other article that it's so fascinating that it talks about, apartment, office buildings, and that office buildings, it says that the office building sales in downtown areas also has dropped tremendously. Let's talk about the office buildings for a moment, especially in the downtown area. So first of all, when you talk about office buildings in downtown, that means you're talking about Class A buildings. What it means, it's a very desirable area, very high demand area. So, but there is a ripple effect. See, you have to understand the economy, it works, and whatever happens, they affect each other. People, they don't understand this. They say, this is only commercial, nothing's gonna happen. So first of all, what we have to understand is that as a reminder, I told you guys, there is about $2.3 trillion of loans that are about to come due. And as a matter of fact, 450 billion of loans that are about to come due in the next few months in 2023. So what happens is that when you have an office building in downtown area, and imagine that you have a downtown area, building in downtown area, and 50% of the building is vacant. What happens? Well, if the 50% of the building is vacant, that means that building is in the tremendous amount of stress. Now that the buildings are in the tremendous amount of stress, as an owner of a building, what are your options? Well, some people, they think, well, one of the options is that, okay, increase the rent on the other tenants. Why? Because that's your cash flow. Well, you cannot do that. So then what happens? Well, when the building is 50% occupied and there's a 50% vacancy, first of all, when the loan comes due in the next few months, okay, you're not going to be able to renew your loan. In other words, you have no cash flow, you are negative, and therefore, when you are looking at your loan, that you got 5 or 6 years ago at 3%, now you're looking at 7-8% of renewal, you're not going to be able to renew. Why? Because first of all, you don't have the cash flow because you have 50% vacancy, and also the interest rate is so high that it is not possible for you to be able to control. So what do? Well, you have no other option, let's say, to file a bankruptcy. So when you file a bankruptcy, the bank, they have to take the property back, right? They have to foreclose the back. And in most cases, people, they sign off. They said, here's your building. I don't want it. And they move up, right? It is so fascinating that there is an article that it says that U.S. corporate bankruptcy filing hit 12 years high in the first 2 months of 2023. So bankruptcies are coming, but you see there is even more effect. See, if the building goes through bankruptcy or they return to the bank, and because there is a 50%, 30% of vacancies, people, they lose job, right? People, they work in a building, they lose job. Contractors that they work with the building, they lose their job. Most often, where are these office buildings, there are small restaurants or coffee shops that they get support from all these buildings. When they see that they have so much of buildings, they close or they go bankrupt, people, they're leaving, that alone affects the business. So they have less revenue. When they have less revenue, they lay off people. And eventually, if they don't have enough customers and if they don't have enough revenue, what they do, they shut down. You see, all of this, they affect each other. Economy works based on this side of the economy reacts to the other side of the economy, and they affect each other. So now, the other part of this whole situation is that there is a credit crunch, as we know, right? We know there is a credit crunch, and the most importantly is that there is an article that it just came out that it says that the vacancies on the commercial buildings is continuously rising. In other words, God knows where this is going to go. It could be 40, 50, 60, 70% vacancy on these buildings. And when that happens, these buildings, they have no value, right? On the other hand, because of the credit crunch, banks, they cannot afford to loan out. They cannot renew all these loans, especially that 80% of the loans are held with regional banks. So now the regional banks, they're about to go bankrupt themselves, and they have all these loans in their in their balance sheet that they have to deal with it. So you see, the thing is that commercial real estate has such a massive impact in the economy that is going to bring down so many things. In other words, you're going to see massive layoffs. You're going to see tremendous amount of bankruptcies filed by so many of these companies, and the banks, they're failing. And the other hand, what happens is that these buildings, even though if the owners, they go and say, you know what, I don't want it, here's your building, Mr. Bank, I'm walking away. What is it that the banks, they have to do with all these buildings? Well, they have no other choice but to sell. Now, what happens in term, people that they are situated and they are liquid, people that they are capable of buying non-performing notes and buildings, they're going to buy these buildings 50, maybe 40 cents to $1. Now, of course, if you buy the building, right, you have to be able to hold on to it. I've told this many, many times, and I'm going to say it again. It doesn't matter what you buy in your life, even if you buy a car, even if you buy a small house. It always comes down to power of holding. If you have the power of holding, it doesn't matter to you. But if you don't have the power of holding, you're not going to be able to keep it. So now, my opinion is that when all this is about to unfold and is happening in hundreds of miles an hour, I think, in my opinion, what's going to happen is you're going to see more and more and more is that people that they have the capital, people that they have the capability, they are going to buy these buildings 40, 50 cents to $1. Then what's going to happen is most likely one of the best way to be able to keep that building, bring the value up, bring the cash flow, and make it profitable is to convert it to a residential. In other words, to be able to convert it and make apartment buildings from these office buildings to be able to survive. Why? Because right now, as you could see, especially those areas that they hire, they lease to the startup new, especially, the tech businesses, startup businesses, they went and got so many offices. Now that they're crushing, what happens? Vacancies. I know personally a person very close to me that they bought a building a couple of years ago, and Netflix, they went and they leased 50% of the building. But you know what they did? A few months back, they returned the lease. They said, we don't want it. So this building right now is 50% vacant. So what's going to happen to this building? Imagine when you are 50% vacant, that means you are negative. That means you cannot pay your mortgage, you cannot pay your employees, you cannot pay with the keep up, you cannot pay your insurance. So what happens is that this scenarios is happening every day. So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about is this. When I talk about the commercial real estate, I want you to understand, we're not talking about one specific office in a specific area that all occupied by doctors and there is no vacancy. So you say, well, nothing is happening. That's not true at all. That's not true at all. Okay. We're not talking about one or two buildings. We're talking about overall. And the other thing that we have to understand also, even in a shopping mall, even in a shopping center, just go walk around. How many businesses are closing because they can't survive and they don't have the revenue? So the bottom line here is that this $20 trillion of commercial real estate market is going down, and it's going to create massive problem. As a matter of fact, this alone is going to create, because of the credit crunch, it's going to, with the banks and everything else, it's going to create a residential real estate crash. As you could see, it's about to happen. As a matter of fact, there is an article, it says that the real estate loans saw the biggest decline, $40 billion, okay, in the last few months. So in other words, because of the banks, they cannot afford to lend out. You're gonna see massive commercial real estate crush, which is gonna affect businesses, it's gonna affect bankruptcies, it's gonna affect massive layoffs, and it's gonna affect residential real estate. However, even with all this said, I always say we need to be intelligent about this whole situation. This is going to create tremendous amount of opportunities that we need to look for. We need to prepare. We need to go look. And once we find these deals, first of all, we need to know who are the buyers. We need to find out buyers that they have the capability and the capital to buy these buildings. Then we need to look for opportunities to be able to make money. Again, I've said this in many times. In our company, we have partners in New York and Florida that they are looking for non-performing notes. They're looking for buildings that are distressed. They have the cash. They have the institutional money, it's available. They have private funds that are available to buy this type of buildings. This is going to create tremendous amount of opportunity. And most importantly, I want you to have a wonderful week. And as always, good luck out there.